So, we already know the next series in Avatar Legends will be following the Earth Avatar after Avatar Korra. Now, according to new rumors, we are getting a little more insight into the setting, which will apparently have a cyberpunk aesthetic, along with different types of bending as well. Some of these things are questionable, but others might actually be true. Find out which on the other side of the intro. Hey folks, my name is Antoine, Bandele, your resident geek, giving you theories and discussion for all things Avatar, and today let's discuss the leak presented by Twitter user My Time to Shine Hello. Usually, as most of you know, I get my news from Avatar News, as I find their sources very reliable. So today, take everything with a bigger grain of salt, as I am less familiar with this Twitter user, though I'm told they are somewhat reliable with their Marvel/DC news. Not so much with Avatar Studio stuff, but their tweet reads as such. I got some Avatar The Last Airbender scoops. The next sequel show will have more of a cyberpunk setting and will have multiple energy benders and flying airbenders, so expect more Dragon Ball Z level fighting. In case you missed it in my last video, which you can watch here, Avatar News exclusively broke the rumored story about the next Earth Avatar, including its more modern setting, which should take place around 100 years after the current events of The Legend of Korra. The new information we have here is about multiple energy benders, flying airbenders, and the idea of fights that could look more like Dragon Ball Z. What I'd like to go over first is why this rumor could hold some water. In the art of the animated series book, Mike DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, the creators of the show, detailed their early pitches to Nickelodeon for what Avatar The Last Airbender could have been. In the book, Brian Konietzko says, "Mike and I went back to square one. We laid out every idea we had on the table indiscriminately, and I dug through every random sketch I had done during my time on Invader Zim. I found a drawing that I barely remember even making. A lineup of 3 characters, a robot Cyclops monkey with an arrow on his head holding a staff, a morose-looking balding man in his 40s wearing a futuristic outfit, and a bipedal polar bear dog hybrid. I had become a big fan of Cowboy Bebop at the time, another show that is debated to fall under the cyberpunk subgenre, and I think this drawing was a half-baked idea in response, about some trio of oddball characters traveling through space. And that is the connection point that I thought when considering the validity of this tweet. The creators of Airbender have always been intrigued by steampunk and cyberpunk aesthetics and themes, and it seems with this new Earth Avatar story, they might be able to return to that original fascination, almost how they kind of were going to that territory with The Legend of Korra. So in terms of this specific part of the rumor, I totally can see that happening. Before, I thought maybe we just have a modern day similar to our own real-world society, but it looks like we might get something closer to the vibe of Cyberpunk 2077. Perhaps our new Earth Avatar might have to face a new version of the Equalists who could now use cybernetics implanted in their bodies to combat the old-time benders in an effort to level the playing field. I mean, it's also said that The Last Airbender was also inspired by Samurai Jack in the way that Aang essentially gets transported to a dystopian future he needs to overcome, just as Samurai Jack gets transported to the future in his own show. The only difference is that Aang's time period is largely unchanged, while Samurai Jack's time period has turned into a cyberpunk-like setting. But when it comes to energy benders, flying airbenders all over the place, and Dragon Ball Z fighting, I gotta hit this rumor with a big Now, I'm kind of okay with there being more flying airbenders, only because we've seen from the past that when new bending is discovered in the world of Avatar, more individuals tend to acquire that ability, much like lightning generation. And the same happens in real life. Take the NBA for example. The three-point line has been around since the 1980s, but it wasn't until Steph Curry went nuts in the 2010s that everyone else started going ham with long-distance threes. Or when Tony Hawk hit the 900 for the first time. Previously, it had taken decades for skateboarders to achieve that feat, but once they saw Tony Hawk do it, everyone else started doing it shortly after. Same could be the case in a post-Zahir world. Once people became aware it was possible, others would follow suit. Plus, in previous videos on this channel, I've gone over how the airbenders might have had flight in the past and simply lost it. So this rumor could hold some water. I just don't want to see all the airbenders flying around, especially if they aren't holding to the empty void mentality that Zahir had to have to do it in the first place. There needs to be a cost to flying. It shouldn't just be used willy-nilly by anyone. One of my Discord members made a great point between the difference of lightning generation and flight. Just gonna throw my 2 cents in here as though I was at all part of this conversation. I'm not sure if lightning bending and flight are quite comparable. Lightning is an ability that was made rare by the royal family intentionally. They wanted to make it so rare that the nobility could lord that knowledge over commoners. To do it, you really just have to not be an emotional wreck, and as we saw with Azula during the comment, even that is kind of a suggestion. Flight is an entire spiritual discipline that requires you to commit fully to the monk lifestyle and have no attachments. There was a religious figure I remember hearing about when I was a kid. Don't know his name off the top of my head, but I heard a story where he was driving a wagon one day. Somebody he knew ran up to him and told him his house burned down in an accident and he lost everything. The guy simply said, "Thanks for telling me," and continued with his business for the day. That is the level of commitment that flyers need. Unconcerned with any possessions, understanding that life is temporary. And all modern airbenders in Korra's time are normal people off the street who just got their powers very recently. So I'm not saying it's impossible for the next generation to have anybody with flight. I'm just saying it'll be a rough adjustment for a lot of them to reach that level necessary to do it. And I couldn't agree more. There needs to be a cost to flight, or I'm gonna be a little miffed by it. By the way, if you want to join in on the discussions we have on my Discord, you can do so by becoming a channel member. Just hit that join button below. Last, we have this notion of energy benders, which got the hugest side eye from me with this entire tweet. Besides the idea of fights looking like Dragon Ball Z, which I am not a fan of. Energy bending should be exclusive to avatars and avatars only. I do not want to see that ability transferred to standard benders, and it's the only thing in the whole tweet I can't fully get behind. Yes, it's true that all bending is technically energy bending, just in the forms of fire, air, water, and earth. But the pure form of it, its purest form, the stuff we saw with Aang taking away bending or Korra repelling a pure energy blast, that should not be spread across other benders. That would totally trivialize the ability in a negative way. But that's just me. What do you think about the potential of more flying airbenders, energy benders in a cyberpunk setting in the world of Avatar Legends? Can you get down with the vibe? Are you totally repulsed? Or somewhere in between? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more Avatar content just like this. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends.